Hello, Lynn Watts here from Wyeth Wonder Dog Books. And in this video, I'm going to continue my discussion about helping kids develop perseverance, one of the key traits of resilience. Now, in the previous video about perseverance, I talked about what perseverance is and what it is not. So if you haven't watched that one, you may want to go back and watch that one first. In this particular video, I'm going to be talking about practical ways, things that you can actually do and say with children to help them develop perseverance. And I think what you'll find is that perseverance is really basically a mindset. And so we want to help children develop what is typically called a growth mindset. That is a mindset that encourages and facilitates learning new things in order to develop perseverance. Because if you're determined to learn something new, then you're going to persevere until you learn it. So I think that makes a lot of sense. So the first thing that we can talk about that is a way of helping children develop perseverance is to normalize mistakes. So I think perhaps in the past, we've put a lot of emphasis on not making mistakes, even from the idea that we ought to try and avoid mistakes. The fewer mistakes you make, the better. And certainly none of us want to be making a whole lot of mistakes. I get that. But it's also true that we can learn from mistakes. So the best question is not, did you make a mistake? The best question is, what did you learn from that? All right. So if this didn't turn out like you wanted it to, what can you learn from that? And in normalizing it, what we're basically saying to children is that mistakes are what happens along the way to success. So mistakes don't mean a failure. Instead, mistakes mean that you're learning and that you're learning how to do things so that you can be successful. So we want to normalize mistakes. And one of the ways we can do that, of course, is to say things like mistakes show that your brain is learning. In fact, that I believe is one of the posters that is in my coloring book that you might want to think about in terms of helping children develop perseverance. And it's right up here in the front, I'm pretty sure. So let me just show that to you because this is the kind of thing that you can certainly help kids do to help them develop perseverance and to normalize mistakes. All right, so here it is right here. You can see the poster on this page right here. So mistakes are proof that you're trying. Correcting your mistakes is proof that you are growing. All right. So that's right here in the coloring book. And you can certainly have kids color a poster like that or even write out that saying and post it somewhere as a good reminder. All right, normalize mistakes. The second thing that we can do to help children develop perseverance is to teach them the language of yet. I haven't learned it yet. I can't read yet. And so what we're doing is helping them basically set goals and understand that along the way of achieving a goal, let's talk about reading, or you could talk about perhaps a physical goal, that along the way to doing that, there are different steps. So you may not be at the final step yet, but you're making progress and you're moving along in that direction. So I can't do this yet. I haven't figured this out yet, and help them learn to use yet in limiting statements. The third thing is to focus on process praise. I think in the past, we spent an awful lot of time on focusing on achievement praise. All right. So what have you achieved? And that is basically what's behind this very common phrase that I know I used a lot with my children and with students, and I bet you have too, and that's good job. Good job, good job, good job. We say that all the time. You know, a child does something, it's like, oh, good job. And it's not that that's a bad thing to say. It's just that that's not the only thing to say, because basically we're not telling them a whole lot with that phrase. when we say good job, it's kind of like, you're there, you've achieved it, you've done a good job, good for you. On the other hand, if we focus on process praise, we're saying things like, um, I like the way you put a lot of effort into that. I see that you've tried 3 different ways to get that right. Um, I like the way that you're trying so many different strategies. Way to go about thinking creatively to solve the problem. Do you see what I'm talking about? So instead of focusing on completion, we're focusing on process. All right. You didn't give up when it got hard. All right. There you go. There you are praising perseverance right there. So, focusing on the process, focusing on the effort involved is a good way to develop perseverance. Another thing is to use goal check ins. All right. So, checking in on, first of all, you have to identify the goal. So, maybe the goal is to learn so many sight words for school, an academic goal. So the goal is to learn these sight words and then to check in along the way. And again, this is much like identifying those steps. So what have you tried? What went wrong? All right. So haven't maybe learned all of them yet. What I'll try next. And also, I think what needs to be a part of that is what is the progress you've made? All right. So your goal is to know 20 sight words. How many did you know to start with? All right, probably 0. And so where are you now? Well, you've learned 5, or you've learned 10. You've only got 5 more to go, or you've got 10 more. So help students see where they are on that continuum of achieving a goal and learning that goal. And also allowing for setbacks. I think that's especially true if you have a physical goal. If your goal is to, score a goal in a game or something like that, or shoot so many baskets in a row, or whatever, there's going to be days when you can do that. And then even once you accomplish that, there's going to be days where you don't do that. All right. Even experts, even professionals don't accomplish their goal every single time. So we want to use goal setting check-ins, and we want to be realistic about how we achieve goals, how we go back and forth in terms of achieving them. And then finally, and I say this all the time, remember that you are a role model. So if your children or your students can see that you are trying to achieve a goal, and that sometimes you fail and yet you stick with it and you try again and you're not there yet, and you're explaining how I'm here, but I'm going to I've accomplished this much, but this is my ultimate goal. Then as a role model, you're just doing all of the things that I've just talked about without actually having to use words necessarily. You're showing how it happens, how it's done. So I think those are some good practical ways, things that you can do through our language, through our praise, through our support as we work with students and help them develop perseverance in terms of accomplishing the goals that they want to accomplish. As always, I want to thank you for all the wonderful things that you do to improve children's lives, and thanks for listening.